Egyptian.
Let's do a data set that not only illustrates log, but it's actually real data called Galapagos. And this data set has 30 observations. Those are 30 different islands within the Galapagos archipelago or whatever it's called. And we looked at how many of the species on the island there were versus how many were native to back when Darwin was there. And so we're wanting to know, if I knew the total number of species, could I predict how many of those species were native? Now, as I looked at the data set, I saw this asterisk right here, and I thought to myself, I wonder if that's going to cause a problem. So I looked at the plot. Yep. Whenever you see this, you know that it's not looking at something as numerical. Instead, it's seeing it as categorical. So we've got to do our trick, as.numeric, as.character. You've seen this before. And when we do that, it puts that asterisk in as an NA. And now we can plot it and get the picture. And look at that curvature there. Can you see how it seems to be arcing off into the X direction? Maybe is it arcing in the... Now it's going to turn out, because you know I told you at the beginning this is log. But for right now, I might just think that it's only a log of species that I need. So let's plot log species. And what do we see? Now we see it shooting off in the native direction. Gee, how do we fix that? Well, we'll log native. And look at the log plot. Nice, perfect, linear. This is a special data set. It's not often they actually look this nice. So what would happen if you didn't notice? What if you did an LM of just the linear native and the linear species without doing the logs? Well, when you look at the residual plots, these just don't look like good residuals. There's curvature, there's these weird, extremely large outliers here, whereas the rest of the data seems clumped there. That would be an indication that maybe there's something that can be fixed here. And if you look at the residuals specifically based on Alright, so that's the problem with having an NA. The residuals took that row out when we did the fit, but the original data set did not take that row out. So I'm going to tell it, you know what, just take that row out. That way I don't have to worry about this anymore. And do we see this curvature with these large outliers here? That's a hint that logging species would help. But if we redo it with log species, well, they're more spread out now, but we definitely see this curvature going on. And if we look at the plot based on the species, we still have curvature and extreme outliers. That's not enough. So there's our hint that we need to keep looking where we would have found that we need to log native as well. So here's going to be my final model, and based on the plots I was looking at before, I expect this to go really well. Beautiful. Look at those residuals. And let's just check the residuals by species. Okay, still a little bit of high outliers here. So logging hasn't made our data perfect, but I've got to say that looks a lot better. Looking at the summary, there is my slope. Now how do I interpret that? Well, in this one we have logged X and we've logged Y. So I want to talk about X increasing by some percentage, 3% in this case. So 1.03 raised to that slope gives me value right down here, 1.022457. So that's 2.2457% higher. Now real quick, let me just prove that if I were to do log base 10 instead of log base E, it would come out the same, and we get the exact same number right here. And that's because in the log model, base that you use isn't put into it. Now, if we went back to the Y being logged and X not, then yes, this number would change, but it would change to the number it needs to be to give you the same answer, whether you're using log base 10 or log base E. So it really doesn't matter which one you use. Log 10 is easy. If you're fond of it, that's fine, you can use it. So everything we've looked at till now has been pretty basic, a single X and a single Y, and sometimes one or the other gets logged. In the next video, let's take a really complex style data set, something more like what you might see in preparation for the final project.